from midnight, there's no more radio and TV election ads. The thinking being, of course, that we'll all have a couple of days without harassment in which to decide the government we want for the next 3 years. It's the old electronic ad blackout, only it's not a blackout anymore. Instead, the action just shifts from your TV to your letterbox to your telephone and increasingly to your laptop and your social media feed as the parties and candidates make their final pitch in each and every way they can. But the longer this campaign has lasted, the clearer the choice has become between a careful, somewhat predictable and safe government that's had leadership woes in the past but now appears to be led by a bloke that almost everyone can understand is one of them, and the most left-wing opposition Australia has seen in at least a generation, with a united frontbench and union movement that have got plans to turn this country upside down. Depending on whether you think upside down is what's needed, tells you everything about where the voter is starting to line up 3 days out from Saturday's poll. To someone like me who's been in the back room of federal politics for almost 2 decades, and as I've said before, I've always respected my opponents, once there was a lot to admire about the old-style Labor Party. It was a movement that wanted to give decent workers more of a chance to get ahead and had a front bench of people who had once worked on the tools before entering Parliament. It's a sorry indictment on the modern Labor Party that hardly any of their MPs today have a background other than as a union organiser, and that one of the worst features of this campaign has been modern Labor's punishment agenda against everyone who's having a go. In this campaign, Labor's talked a lot about hitting the big end of town. Well, earning $180,000 a year doesn't make you rich, particularly if you live in one of our capital cities, let alone a member of some kind of moneyed elite, as the Gladstone port worker, sacked for asking Bill Shorten what he'd do for workers earning this sort of money, well knows. Labor's policy, see, is not so much soak the rich, it's to soak the middle class, who, if Labor are elected this weekend, will wear the brunt of their $387 billion in tax increases. At one level, sure, something like Labor's negative gearing tax changes and capital gains tax increases hurt those with investment properties, and on the face of it, no one else. But here's where Chris Bowen is such an economic dunce. If you drive small-time investors out of the property market, rental stock will dry up, and when that happens, rents will go up. And if investors are driven out of the property market, when you or I go to sell a house, there's a smaller pool of buyers. And so as the vendor, we get less options for a sale, and hey presto, the price of our homes also take a hit. Then there's the abolition of franking credits, the so-called retirees tax. Labor says that these franking credits are a free gift to the rich. Well, wrong on every level. If you own shares in a company, the tax the company pays is tax paid on your behalf, just like the tax that gets taken out of our weekly pay. At the end of every financial year, this all gets reconciled by the tax office between the tax we've paid and where we fall on the tax assessment scale. You earn a lot, you don't get much back. But if you've paid more than you have earned, or if you didn't have much of an income over the past year, you end up with a refund. Now, it's this very principle that Bill Shorten says can keep applying to everyone else, including people on high incomes, but it's not allowed now to apply to older Australians, retirees on modest incomes. How fair is that? And why hit franking credits for those modest retirees when the rebates will still be available to people who have retirement incomes in union super funds or high-income retirees who are still paying tax? Now, none of this is fair. And like so much of Labor's policy, it hasn't really been thought through. It means fewer people will save for their retirement, fewer people will buy Australian shares, and more people will end up on the pension. It won't raise nearly as much as Labor thinks, and it will damage Australia's social fabric by taking away the incentives for self-reliance and acting responsibly by the taxpayer. And I guess that's my real problem with this modern Green Left Labor Party that was seen in this election campaign. What used to be the party to lift up the poor has become the party to stop anyone getting ahead. The working class party now looks like a welfare class party. This isn't how we built this country. If we go down this path where we reward dependency, punish self-reliance, punish aspiration, and push more and more Australians onto the welfare state, we'll find out soon enough that we can't pay our bills as a country anymore, and the so-called lucky country will find it has run out of luck.